We had been together for 4 years. Not a perfect 4 years, no relationship is perfect, but ours felt solid. Real. She made me laugh. She challenged me. She gave me this sense of calm, like I was finally where I was supposed to be in life. Her name was Elise. I still remember the first time I saw her, at a small cafe, of all places. She was sitting by the window, typing furiously into her laptop, completely unaware of the world around her. I said something dumb about the weather and she gave me this smirk like, really? But somehow, that turned into a conversation, then coffee, then dinner, then years. We moved in together 2 years in. Traveled. Adopted a dog. She helped me through my dad's passing. I was there through her job burnout. We had history. Depth. So, yeah, when I decided to propose, it wasn't impulsive. It was the most certain I had ever felt about anything. I spent months planning it. Rented a beautiful event space, candlelight, soft jazz, everything carefully curated. I invited our closest friends and family. She thought it was a networking party for one of my clients. The surprise was part of the magic. I even had her best friend help pick out the ring. Elise had once casually mentioned she liked oval stones. I never forgot that. I rehearsed the speech at least 50 times. I wanted it to be perfect. Because she deserved perfect. Because we did. And that night, standing there in front of everyone, when I knelt down and looked into her eyes, I felt like everything in my life had finally clicked into place. She smiled. She said yes. The room exploded in applause and laughter and champagne. And for a moment, I truly believed I was the happiest man alive. I wish I could have frozen time right there, before the mask started to slip. Before the messages. Before Tom. Before everything I thought was real fell apart right in front of me. When she said yes, I swear, it was like the room got brighter. Her eyes welled up with tears, real ones, I thought, and she threw her arms around me. The crowd roared. Glasses clinked. Someone started cheering, to the future Mr. and Mrs., and it echoed like music in my chest. She whispered something like, "I can't believe this," into my ear. I held on to that line all night. Everything was exactly how I imagined it, my mom wiping her eyes in the corner, her sister taking a million pictures, my best friend giving me a silent thumbs up from across the room. And Elise, my fiancée now, glowing in the middle of it all, like she was born for this moment. We kissed for the cameras. She showed off the ring, laughing nervously, saying she was shaking. I was shaking too, but with joy. Or pride. Maybe both. For that first hour, we were magnetic. People surrounded us, drinks kept flowing, the lights dimmed a little. I kept catching her smiling at me from across the room while talking to someone else. Every time our eyes met, I got butterflies, still, after 4 years. It felt like everything was falling into place. Everything I'd worked toward, building a future, saving for the ring, making sure I was the kind of man she could say yes to, had finally paid off. She was now my fiancée. And I thought we'd be telling our future kids about that night someday. I thought I was building the first chapter of our forever. What I didn't know, couldn't possibly know, was that she had already written a very different story behind my back. And someone else had been reading it long before I ever got to see the pages. It started small. About an hour after the proposal, right when the first wave of euphoria had started to settle, I noticed her glance at her phone. Nothing unusual, except, it wasn't the casual kind of glance. It was fast. Sharp. And she turned the screen away from me. Again, maybe nothing. But then she excused herself to the restroom. Took her clutch with her. Stayed gone for almost 20 minutes. I figured she needed a moment. It was an emotional night, right? But when she came back, something was off. Her smile was still there, but it wasn't the same smile from earlier. It was tighter. Practiced. Like she was forcing herself to stay in character. I tried to brush it off. I didn't want to be that guy, insecure, needy, hovering. I told myself I was imagining things. That I was just overly sensitive because the moment was so big. She laughed at someone's joke, clinked her glass against a friend's, but I could tell her eyes weren't staying with anyone for long. They kept flicking down toward her phone, which she now kept in her hand constantly. She barely touched her food. Normally, she'd be the first to sneak an extra piece of cake, but that night? Barely a bite. Said she had a headache. Said she was overwhelmed. At one point, I went to refill her drink, and when I came back, she was at the far end of the room, again on her phone, looking intensely focused. Her expression wasn't sad. It wasn't happy. It was complicated. She saw me looking and smiled again, wide, sweet, perfect. But it didn't reach her eyes. And for the first time all night, a tiny voice in the back of my mind whispered. Something's wrong. I didn't know it yet, but that was the beginning of the unraveling. And soon, I wouldn't just be questioning her smile. I'd be questioning everything. It happened in the stupidest way. She left her phone face up on the edge of the bar while hugging someone goodbye. It buzzed, just once. I glanced out of habit. Not to snoop. I wasn't trying to catch her doing anything. But the screen lit up, and I saw the name. Tom's speech balloon. No last name. Just Tom. And a preview of the message. I still can't believe you said yes. You don't owe him anything. I froze. You ever feel the world tilt a little? It took everything in me not to snatch the phone, not to react, not to let my hands start shaking in front of everyone. I just stared at the screen as it dimmed and went black again, like nothing happened. She came back laughing, completely unaware of what I'd just seen. I tried to act normal. Smiled. Kissed her on the cheek. But my heart was thudding in my chest like I'd been running. Who the hell was Tom? Why was he texting her that she didn't owe me anything? More importantly, why was she getting that message an hour after accepting my proposal? My mind spiraled. Maybe it was a joke. Maybe it was a misunderstanding. Maybe this Tom didn't even know what he was talking about. Maybe it was an old friend being protective or weird. Or maybe. No. I shut it down. Right there. Told myself I was being paranoid. Overthinking. Ruining my own night with insecurity. But I couldn't unsee it. That one message had opened a door I couldn't close, and the longer I stood next to her, the more I felt like a stranger at my own engagement party. The air had changed. And deep down, I knew. This wasn't going to end with cake and dancing. This was the beginning of something much, much darker. Spent the next hour trying to convince myself I was just being irrational. It's easy to do when you're surrounded by smiling faces, people congratulating you, raising their glasses to forever. You start to feel like the bad guy for even having doubts. Like questioning anything is somehow a betrayal of the dream you just created. But that text, you don't owe him anything, it was playing on loop in my head. I kept running scenarios. Maybe she had told a friend she felt pressured about the proposal. Maybe this Tom guy was someone she vented to. Maybe he was misreading the situation, and she hadn't corrected him yet. But why would he say, "I still can't believe you said yes"? That didn't sound like a joke. That sounded like disappointment. Like a response to something intimate. A line drawn, and crossed. And the way she had been acting after the proposal? Detached. Jumpy. Barely present. That wasn't the Elise I knew. The Elise I loved would have been giddy, maybe even crying. She would have clung to me all night, showing off her ring to everyone like it was the moon. Instead, I got silence. Excuses. Side glances at her screen. I tried to brush it off as jealousy. I really did. I mean, who hasn't felt insecure at some point? Maybe I was just overwhelmed. Maybe the pressure of the night was messing with my head. People cry at weddings, maybe I was unraveling early. But then she disappeared again. Said she needed air. Took her phone. I followed a few minutes later, just enough space to not seem suspicious. I found her on the side patio. Pacing. On a call. She didn't see me. And what I heard changed everything. I didn't mean to eavesdrop. I didn't even want to be the guy who sneaks around corners. But something stronger than pride pulled me toward that patio door, like my gut had already made up its mind, and my heart was playing catch-up. She was turned away from me, leaning on the railing, phone pressed to her ear, voice low but urgent. I heard her say. I didn't think he'd actually do it tonight. A pause. No, he has no idea. I panicked, okay. I didn't know what else to say. Silence again. Stop it. I'm not talking about this now. Everyone's here. Another pause. No, I haven't told him about us. Jesus, Tom, not tonight. My blood went cold. There it was. His name. Again. Out loud. She was talking to him. Not her mom. Not a friend. Not a random work colleague. She was calling Tom. The same Tom who had texted her. The same Tom who now clearly wasn't just some guy. Us. That word echoed louder than anything. Us. I backed away before she saw me. I didn't know what I was doing, where I was going. I walked into the bathroom, locked the door, and stared at myself in the mirror. She just said yes to marrying me. Said she loved me. Kissed me in front of everyone we cared about. And the same night, the same damn night, she was calling another man and talking about their relationship. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I didn't even breathe for a while. I just stood there, quietly letting the truth seep in. Everything I feared was real. And the worst part? I still wasn't ready to accept it. Not yet. I came back inside trying to look normal. Smiling. Nodding. Pretending. Inside, I was spiraling. It was surreal, moving through a room full of happy people, music playing, people clinking glasses, while my world was quietly caving in on itself. I couldn't confront her yet. I wasn't ready. I didn't even know what I'd say. I needed confirmation. Something solid. Something that didn't sound like jealousy in my own head. And it came from the most unexpected place. Her best friend, Jess. Now, to be clear, Jess had been drinking. A lot. She'd been emotional all night, crying during the proposal, laughing too loudly at everything. At some point, she sat next to me while Elise was off talking to a cousin or someone. Jess leaned her head against my shoulder and sighed. You really love her, she said. I nodded, my throat tight. You're a good guy, she added. Better than Tom, anyway. I froze. I turned slowly toward her. What? Jess blinked, like she realized too late what she'd said. Her eyes widened for half a second, and then she tried to laugh it off. Nothing. Just, stupid stuff. Forget it. But she'd said it. Better than Tom. She knew. And that slip, that one name spoken aloud in her vodka-sweet breath, hit harder than anything Elise had done so far. It wasn't just between Elise and this guy anymore. Jess knew. Other people knew. And they'd let me plan a proposal. Let me throw this party. Let me embarrass myself in front of everyone while they stood by in silence. I stood up and walked away. I couldn't pretend anymore. Couldn't smile. Couldn't breathe properly. This wasn't paranoia. It was betrayal. Real, living betrayal. And the mask was off. I didn't wait for the perfect moment. There wasn't going to be one. She was by the drink table, laughing with two guests, perfectly composed, glowing, the ring still fresh on her finger. I remember thinking how cruel it was that someone could look so radiant while I was quietly drowning just a few feet away. I walked up to her and said, calmly, "Can we talk?" "Outside." She blinked. "No." I didn't answer. Just turned and started walking toward the side door. She followed. We stepped out into the cold evening air. Music from inside thumped faintly behind us. For a few seconds, we just stood there in silence. Then I said it. "How long has it been going on?" Her eyes narrowed. "What are you talking about?" I didn't flinch. "Tom. You were on the phone with him earlier. You told him you hadn't told me about us. So I'm asking. How long?" She stared at me, not panicked, not guilty. Just calculating. Then came the laugh. Cold. Flat. "You went through my phone." "No. I saw a message. And I heard you." "That's enough." Her expression twisted. She crossed her arms. "You're acting crazy. Jealous. This is exactly what I mean when I say you're controlling." Controlling. There it was. She flipped it. Instantly. I expected denial. Tears. Maybe even a weak excuse. But instead, she attacked. Gaslight. Tried to turn me into the villain. I stood there, stunned. She went on, said I'd been smothering her. That she needed space. That Tom understood her in ways I never could. And finally, the gut punch. It was just sex. It didn't mean anything until tonight. You pushed me there. I didn't say anything after that. There was nothing left to say. The woman I proposed to wasn't standing in front of me anymore. That person was a story I told myself. And now I was awake. I stood there for maybe another 10 seconds. She had just admitted it, not with regret, not even shame, but like she was bored with the conversation. Like she wanted to go back inside and keep the party going, while I stood there shattered under a sky that suddenly felt too heavy. I turned around without a word and went back inside. The lights, the music, the buzz of laughter, it all felt distant now, like it was happening on another planet. Everyone looked so happy. Some people were still dancing, others were drunk on champagne and bliss. My mom was laughing with her dad. Our friends were taking selfies by the floral arch. And I realized, they didn't know. No one knew. They were all living in the story I had written. And I couldn't let them keep living a lie. So I walked straight up to the mic. Someone handed it to me thinking I was going to make a toast. I didn't even flinch. I just stood there and said, "Thanks, everyone, for coming tonight. I really appreciate all of you being here. But this engagement? This wedding?" I paused. The room was going still. "It's off. Elise has been cheating on me." Silence. "With someone named Tom. I found out tonight. She confirmed it outside just now. I don't blame anyone else here, you all came to celebrate love. But I can't fake something that isn't real." I handed the mic back and walked out. Just like that. I heard gasps behind me. Chairs scraping. One woman shouted, "What?" Elisa's name rang out in confusion. I didn't turn around. I didn't want to see her face. I didn't want to give her a chance to perform again. The truth was out. That was enough. I don't remember the drive home. Seriously, it's a complete blur. I must have been running on pure adrenaline and disbelief. One moment I was handing the mic back, the next I was unlocking my front door, walking into the quiet apartment we'd picked out together 2 years ago, the one we were supposed to grow old in. It was spotless. Too spotless. Like nothing had happened. Like the world hadn't just crumbled around me. I stood in the kitchen with my jacket still on. My hands were shaking, and I didn't even realize I was still holding a box, the leftover cake. Her favorite, red velvet. I'd brought it with me from the venue. Why? Habit? Stupidity? I opened the fridge, saw the bottle of champagne I had chilled that morning for our private toast later, and something in me cracked. I dropped the cake box on the floor. Didn't throw it, just let it go. It hit with a dull thud and collapsed into itself, cream and crumbs spilling onto the tile. I didn't move to clean it up. I just sank down onto the kitchen floor and sat there. The silence was deafening. No music. No laughter. No fake smile. Just me, a ruined cake, and the slow, creeping realization that I'd built my future on a foundation of lies. I kept going over everything in my head, the proposal, the phone call, Jess's drunken slip, her cold confession. I felt stupid. So stupid. Like I'd been the last one to get the joke everyone else was in on. And maybe I had been. That night, I didn't sleep. Didn't eat. Didn't cry. I just sat there, alone with the cake, the ring still in my coat pocket, and the hollow space where hope used to be. The mind does cruel things after betrayal. It doesn't just replay the wound, it rewinds the whole story, digging for scenes that didn't make sense at the time but suddenly glow under a new, harsher light. That's what the next day was like. No tears. No yelling. Just memory after memory crashing down like slow-motion debris. I remembered her working late more often in the past few months. The way she got dressed up for those meetings, not just dressed up, but different. Like she was going out for a date, not a client. I remembered how she used to send goodnight texts when I traveled for work, and how those had stopped. Subtle things. How she never left her phone face up anymore. How she started keeping it in her pocket, even at home. I remembered one weekend where she said she was visiting her mom out of town. I offered to drive her. She refused, said she wanted the alone time. That was 3 months ago. Was that the weekend she was with him? Was it even the first? I remembered how I once joked that her friend Tom seemed to be texting a lot. She brushed it off. Said he was gay. Clearly not. And there were other things, emotional things. How she'd stopped asking about my day. How she'd started calling me predictable. How she flinched once when I reached to touch her arm. It was all there. All of it. But I didn't want to see it then. I didn't want to believe that someone who told me she loved me every morning was slowly replacing me when I wasn't looking. So I excused it. Explained it away. Told myself love was phases. That she was stressed. That we'd reconnect after the proposal. But love doesn't hide like that. Love doesn't lie so well. I didn't tell her I was leaving. There was no cinematic moment. No bags thrown on the floor. No dramatic goodbye. I just made the decision and followed through. By the second morning, I had packed everything that was mine, clothes, documents, that stupid ring I never got the chance to put back in its box. I even took the framed photo of us in Paris, not because I wanted it, but because I didn't want to give her the satisfaction of using it to rewrite the past. I left the key on the kitchen table. No note. She didn't deserve closure. Not from me. I moved in with my brother temporarily. Told my job I needed a few days. Sat on a mattress in his guest room staring at the ceiling, wondering how someone could lie so thoroughly while looking you in the eyes. She texted me twice. The first one said, "We need to talk. Please don't do anything stupid." The second, hours later. "If you walk away without hearing my side, you'll regret it." I didn't answer either. I already had heard her side. Heard it in her tone, her excuses, her casual cruelty. She didn't beg. She didn't apologize. She didn't even ask why I was hurt. No, she defended it. Justified it. And when she was exposed, she blamed me for not being enough. So, no. I wasn't going to hear her out. I wasn't going to sit across from her while she spun another version of the truth to save face. I was done trying to make someone love me the way I deserved to be loved. The wedding was off. The ring was gone. The man I was 2 days ago, the one who thought she was his future, didn't exist anymore. What came next? I didn't know yet. But I knew one thing with absolute certainty. She wouldn't get to rewrite the ending. It came 5 days later. No calls. No visits. Just one long, venom-laced message in my inbox, right around 2 a.m., the hour when guilt either breaks you or hardens you. For her, it was clearly the latter. I can't believe you humiliated me like that in front of everyone. You turned one mistake into a public spectacle just to make yourself look like a victim. Real mature. I stared at it for a long time. Not, I'm sorry. Not, I hurt you. Not even a scrap of accountability, just pure defense, twisted into offense. She went on. You never listened to me. You were always too focused on controlling everything. The ring, the timing, the party, none of it felt like it was about us. It was about you needing to feel like a savior. Tom made me feel seen. Something you stopped doing a long time ago. Seen. That word stung more than I expected. Because for so long, I was the one trying to see her, understand her silences, read her moods, support her through every emotional drift. I thought I was showing love. She saw it as control. She ended with, I hope someday you grow up enough to understand what real love looks like. I didn't reply. I didn't need to. Because here's the thing, real love doesn't hide in texts from someone else. It doesn't lie with a straight face while wearing an engagement ring. It doesn't throw grenades and then play victim when the smoke clears. I reread the message once. Then I deleted it. She got her final word, the last performance. But I had something better, the truth. And the strength to walk away from a life that was never real to begin with. A strange thing happens after the chaos dies down. Silence becomes your only company. Not loneliness, silence. The kind that echoes when your phone doesn't buzz anymore, when your mornings aren't greeted with a familiar voice, when there's no one next to you in bed, but also no more lies seeping through the sheets. I thought the hardest part would be the absence of her. But it wasn't. The hardest part was retraining my mind, teaching it to stop reaching for someone who wasn't reaching back, who never really had been. Every little thing was a reminder. A coffee mug she loved. A song that used to play in the car. The stupid wedding Pinterest board I forgot to delete. But slowly, very slowly, it got easier. I changed my number. Blocked her on everything. Told mutual friends I didn't want updates, explanations, secondhand apologies. I donated the suit I bought for the wedding. I threw away the empty ring box. I started therapy. Not because I was broken, but because I wanted to understand why I'd ignored the signs, why I'd let love turn into blind devotion. Why I thought loyalty meant staying silent through subtle pain. There was no grand breakthrough. No Hollywood montage of me getting my life back. Just quiet days. Then calmer nights. Then the realization that I could laugh again, really laugh, without the weight of wondering if I was being lied to. That's what a clean break feels like. Not sudden. Just, honest. And for the first time in years, I was living honestly too. People like to romanticize pain. They say betrayal makes you stronger. That heartbreak teaches you who you are. That everything happens for a reason. And maybe, eventually, some of that becomes true. But in the beginning, it just hurts. I didn't come out of this with some glowing sense of peace. I didn't find a silver lining in being cheated on days before my wedding. What I found was something colder, but more useful. Clarity. Here's what I know now. Love isn't blind, people are. I saw signs. I ignored them. I chose to believe what I wanted to be true instead of what was right in front of me. Someone who loves you doesn't make you feel crazy. The second you feel like you're defending your sanity in a relationship, you've already started to lose something more important than trust, yourself. Betrayal is a choice, not a mistake. She didn't trip and fall into another man's bed. She planned it. Hid it. Maintained it. All while letting me design a future for two. You don't need closure from a liar. I waited for it. Expected it. But people who lie to your face won't suddenly turn honest when you ask for the truth. Closure comes when you stop needing anything from them at all. And maybe most importantly, your peace is louder than their excuses. I don't think about her every day anymore. I don't need answers. I don't hate her. I don't forgive her either. I just moved on. Not to someone else. Not to a new love story. To myself. If someone reading this is where I was, stuck between a red flag and a wishful heart, here's what I'll tell you. Don't wait for the crash. The moment you feel like something's off, trust your gut. Love should feel safe. Not like a performance you have to rehearse every day to stay chosen. You don't have to fight to be respected. You don't have to earn basic honesty. And you sure as hell don't have to marry someone who treats love like a game with backup players waiting off stage. I dodged a wedding. But more than that, I dodged a life I would have spent questioning myself every single day. And that's the closest thing to freedom I've ever known.